Welcome back once again, my friends. This is Hambbage, and we're here to play some hardcore vanilla Minecraft. And I'm glad to have you with me. And as any viewers of the last video know, we are just following right along after a quick break from our last play or episode in the same play session. So we'll just go ahead and relaunch our Elcano world and begin anew. Anew. Again? We want less beginning anew, Hambbage. That's been the problem so far. All right. So as we finished up our excitement last time, we had just cooked one batch of stone. We want bricks for our garden, but and I know for those who will be quick to correct me, I know that by placing stone in and then going immediately away from our farm, they're not going to cook, but when we do get back, we'll have loads of work to do, hopefully putting away all the bountiful treasures that we found. So we'll do that. Now, in our last boat adventure, which wasn't too terribly long ago, a couple episodes, we headed to kind of the left, and here we'll pop up on this shoreline here after taking down the creeper grass. Can we officially rename that creeper grass? So, standing out on this headlands, we can see, and we'll just throw up the directions for now. So this is north again. Reminder: southwest is beyond the little bit of desert is some villages. We got more smaller desert out that way. And heading off in that direction, we found there's yet another guardian temple, kind of offshore that way, and then a dark oak island that looked like it was opening up into some plains off into the distance. This time, I think we're just going to head straight north. And now that we know we're headed straight north, if you all can remind me if we get lost, just send your telepathic thoughts back into the past when I flail around. We'll see. And for anyone who wasn't with us last time, I think we loaded up decently. We've got a bed, a little bit of food, some minor tools. But really, we're clearing our heads and we're recharging to press on with our gardening or farming project that we started up last time. And really, we didn't, do much more than just lay out our planned fields. Not to say that that's insignificant. That's exactly kind of what we wanted to achieve. Now, I don't know if those are directly tied to our past exploration, but let's loop around to this side, the northeast of our birch forest island, and see what we got. Looks like we got some more dark oak. Kind of appearing that this is all one big landmass. That's cool. Certainly nice to have all that. I'm trying to be a little, and I'm making zero promises, so you know what you're getting on these streams, at least so far. I'm trying not to kind of just gesture as I normally do when I play. I realize just in, kind of preparing some of the videos for publishing, even when you look back at them, when you're not in control, it's kind of like riding in a car. I don't know if anybody else gets this feeling. Here we go, though. Now, this is a quick one. If I'm the passenger in a car and, the roads are icy or whatever, I'm one of those people that I feel, I'm working pedals on the floor mat that don't exist because or the little shoulder handle thing above the window. I'm not freaking out, but I definitely am, when I'm in control, when I'm driving the car, there's not, it's kind of like a video game. I know what to anticipate, and I'm ready, prepared for, whatever that eventuality may be. When you're a passenger, you're seeing, a turn ahead, and it's maybe a little icy or something like that, and you're kind of left to wonder if that's it. You're not prepared, or you don't understand what the driver of the car is doing. If they start to, you know, shift a little to the left in the lane, maybe they see something that you don't. Again, it's not a perfect analogy, but when you're not driving, you can't plan around the anticipation. I know, I move pretty quickly around. When you're just spectating, that seems as though it could be a little overwhelming, and that's not my intent for anybody. I hope that these haven't been too herky-jerky, let's say, but if they have, accept my apologies. I will try to do better, but we'll see how that comes out. I'm still going to play the game and go from there, but it's some, I haven't had a whole lot of time since. Hey, look at that, it's more bees. Hopefully we'll have enough homegrown that we won't need to relocate too many or have to rely on the Silk Touch axe that we don't have yet, but either way. Now, I don't think, I'm remembering back to the chest, I think we had harvested some birch early, but I don't think we have any saplings, and we certainly, haven't grown. We don't have birch logs anymore in our inventory back at the base, and may not. I don't want to particularly fill my inventory at the moment with all that junk. The birch is nice and all, but I know if we get to the other side of this, or if we find a village, I'm gonna end up dropping this stuff for better loot, knowing that we have a whole. I think we have some birch trees still on the island, even, but more importantly, we have a whole birch island just a short little boat skip away. So this is kind of pointless, but I don't like trees that float over ponds any more than I like floating blocks of otherwise chopped down trees. So, just a thing. So there's horses, as we've found in our spawner areas and in our shipwreck explorations. We found a couple saddles. I think we've got some armor, and we've gathered 2 leads from traders. So we've got a few of those resources around. It's our first taiga out in the distance that I think we've seen in this world. It's always cool to just, get a look at the bigger world. Travel, something, I have made no bones about sharing. I certainly enjoy traveling. Was kind of raised to it as a kid, and early on, I'm not going to lie, it felt a little more trying. One of my very first reaction or travel experiences, I have like one fleeting memory of, that's probably more conjecture at this point than actual memory. But when I was just under 2, my parents took me to England. I was the younger of 2 children, and my parents, one grew up in the United States, one grew up in England, and immigrated to the United States. Obviously, before I was born, met my mom. True love, a wonderful story, all that good stuff. But yeah, so when I was born, my father was still a British citizen. He obviously still has family in the UK, and so as a little baby, they had 2 kids, and they went back to see the family and kind of show us, let us meet the family as little. I was a toddler, infant type age. My sister was certainly older on that trip, and we had a couple of opportunities, or I have over my life. Two as kids, one that very early one that I, if anything, just have momentary images of. The others, one I was in about, I think in the summer between fifth and sixth grade is when I went, and that was almost the, I would say a perfect age to really get an introduction to the larger world. Yeah, I'm not, the movie European Vacation came out right around that time frame. I don't know if it was just before we'd been on that trip or just after, but so many of the things that they captured. I mean, Hollywood, it's a little more racy than real life, but the sentiment and the reason why I think, just the vacation movies are some of my favorites, the entire series of all time. But just seeing, that family and there's a point when they're on a train and none of them are talking to each other. This kind of happens more in that movie than in the initial vacation movie. That was a classic and standalone great of what I consider a comic generation. But the European Vacation catches that inner family tension that the kids are kind of in that teen, and of course my sister was a little bit older, so she was a little more wanting to be independent on that trip. I was just what some people would say middle school or junior high aged kid of more trouble and eyes open that in in European cities they would have advertising billets for naughty adult movies and stuff. My eyes are popping out of my head, and I'm obsessed with some of that kind of stuff at that age. But I came back with such a new understanding of castles and countries and what how relatively small we are in America, and how while we certainly have a lot of power and wealth relative to some parts of the world, we don't have a monopoly on the direction that the world takes, or what's right or wrong, and some of those kind of things. And I think any travel is eye opening and broadening. But that my travels to Europe, which have continued as an older adult, maybe in some other ones, I'll talk more about that. But they certainly weren't limited to that. We were a family that made full seizure of the American road trip in my childhood growing up. And as I said, my dad was from the UK and grew up there, so we always kind of had that association that where you came from had cultures and traditions that were different. Well, my grandparents on my mom's side, they were from the southern U.S. and I grew up in the Midwest, so they had moved as fairly young adults far from home. But we did one full road trip that was my mom and my grandparents from the Midwest down to Georgia and eventually Florida. And I think we took about a week. My dad was employed, and he flew down to be with us in Florida. But we did the long, slow road trip on the way to see, and it was intentionally an opportunity for my mom and my grandparents to show us kids a big swath of the country, and here's how it changes, and we had done lots of road trips before that. As I mentioned, my family friend guy that had all their model railroads, that they were in Chicago, and I didn't grow up in Chicago, so a trip on that. And we'd go to more regional tourist areas to my parents not being wealthy, by any means, and certainly, when you are doing well and kind of living a middle class life, you get to select what you want to prioritize spending your money on. And we didn't have a lot of the flashy new things. It was a while before we had a color TV, or and then had a couple, and we never had cable growing up. They kind of were of the opinion that too much TV was a waste, and that they're right, certainly. I think we've all grown more attuned to you almost need to be more aware of what's going on for news and all the rest. The constant news cycle is unveiling and much larger now. So, I think even they would admit that we all watch and do more, but they were big proponents of getting outside. When we were kids, you go play outside. It's beautiful out. Be active, do things, and in the travel sense, it was the same way. They didn't have to be big, flashy vacations, but it was important as people living in the world to see the world. You only get one, as far as we know, you only get one ticket to ride around on this thing, and make the most of that. So we would, even if it wasn't as flashy as going to somewhere tropical or something like that, we would definitely go to small towns and regional areas around where I grew up, and if they had a historical significance or a particular natural appeal, or if we were, if they tied into something else. If my dad had a conference in some city that was a particular region that either my sister and I had never been to, or my parents thought had some appeal, and they could add a day or two, we'd go along, and they'd go do the adult socializing pieces of that, in an evening. My dad would certainly have meetings, but in the meantime, my mom would take out what many people may be familiar with as the old AAA books. For those of you who remember, we talked about maps the other day, but back in the day, and they still exist. A lot of people still use them. AAA, car service stuff. You can get tows and all that kind of stuff. Well, before the internet, AAA was also hugely important when it came to travel. The American Automobile Association, I think, are the 3As. I think they wanted to promote this idea of your automobile was your ticket to mobility around the country. And in many ways, they're right. I've certainly thought on that many a time, and how from the very start, you see those old black and white pictures of Model A and Model T Fords, and they're out, bushwhacking in some of the most remote places ever. And then you start doing the math, and you're like, that was 4 years after the beginning of the assembly line. These are just hitting the market as new tech, and people aren't preserving them to drive them around in the cities and show them off, and make sure that the wax is all well coated. And in my typical Divergent style, they were designed primarily off of a farm functionality. The Model T in particular was kind of a tractor type chassis, and I believe that's standard, but certainly in some of the models early on, it was designed that the entire crankshaft could be lifted and attached to an external belt to turn farm machinery. So, these were being built to expand to a larger market, certainly, but they were being designed to be rugged, and there was none of this. The the cover under the hood that covers up all the components of whatever your engine and your fluids are, and just bring that in for service. You don't want to do that yourself. Much more reminiscent of the kind of 50s hot rodder culture that had still persisted to that point, much as a legacy that not only are you going to um, be able to challenge your vehicle to take on tough terrains, but just by purchasing it, you expect that you're going to have to do a lot of maintenance on it as you go. Which way are we going here? So it that just always kind of tickles me that here people were early on with these cars that even when we look back and go, oh my god, you can get a car for $100. That's crazy. Well, $100 could also buy you a farm. It was so big a purchase in the eyes of the American family that it did change. And one of the big eye-popping revelations was that while they were a high-ticket item, families would crimp and claw and pull together to get one because they appreciated that, yeah, this will certainly be the next biggest purchase compared to our home. They looked at it as a potential for not just economic improvement, which it certainly, up until then, for mobility, you're looking at horses or being dependent on others with a train. Well, now you've basically just broken that model and said you can have the benefits of a train, with stations and stops and schedules. You can control all of that yourself and be beholden to no one. And people just ate it up. They said, I've got this. And in the spirit, of some of the more rural families that very quickly adopted them, they kind of look to, all right, well, if I've got this now and I could always, ride my horse up into those hills, why wouldn't I, the idea that you only drove a car on a paved road was laughable. There just weren't that many paved roads to begin with. So they used them in a sense that I don't think, I think many people nowadays would cringe at the idea that you would just, take a big purchase like a new car and use it like a tool rather than trying to keep it in some kind of nice working order. But out of all that comes this idea of an automobile association. And early on, they not only found that, yeah, the earliest people were, they basically got an instruction course when they bought the car. They were the front crank starts that you see on some of the old movies and things, and you did have to know a lot about them to keep them moving. Even down to the seals and hoses and things that kept the fluids and lubrication grease and all that in place. None of those were robust, and they would be subject to failure. So you had to be able to constantly monitor the fluids and things. And it was the tires and all that definitely needed to be regularly checked and modified. So lots of ongoing work to maintain. Well, as from between the world wars, automobiles exploded. Everybody was driving around, and you couldn't expect women who were some of the most enthusiastic of drivers, because they saw that same freedom in a society that hadn't always promoted their ability to move around and function independently. So obviously a big appeal on that sense to them. We just keep seeing the same kind of stuff here. None of it particularly appealing when we're this far from home now. Um, yeah, but we do want the gold block. A couple gold blocks. Let's see what that does. Hopefully enough. Nope. Anyway, come on. Okay, so story time continues. AAA would in addition to producing um, maps to get you out and to places, and working with independent towing companies and mechanics and all that around the country. They would say, hey, we're going to have a whole bunch of people. If they run into trouble while they're out on the road, we'll use your services, and we'll kind of cover the cost on a negotiated basis with you guys. They'll pay us a monthly fee. And that, at least that's the model had evolved to by the time we got it. I don't know how it originally started. I haven't looked deeply into the early models that they used, but it had evolved by the time of my childhood to, they wanted you to pay for them to use their service, and the people that would most rely on a AAA like service, where anywhere you need, you flash the card and you've got tows and all that kind of stuff. No questions asked, no hassle, no muss. The people that need that are not the ones that are driving around their own neighborhood. If you're close to home, odds are Hank, the guy with the tow truck, or the snowplow driver, James, and those guys will hook you up if you're in trouble. You got friends, you got a network. You don't need to pay for a service to do that. The people who need that service particularly are the ones that are far from home. Don't remember, we're not in an era of the internet, so you're not at the mercy of just Googling, I need a tow truck, show me tow trucks around and compare prices and feedback and all that. None of that existed. What you were at the mercy of was maybe a Yellow Pages ad in the phone book when you got to a phone. And by that point, I can attest from having been a kid in the backseat. I know my dad suffered through this. As soon as things start to go wrong, it's the parents up front are their tempers are raising. Everybody's always, no matter how much fun you're having, you're kind of worn out, and you're tired from sitting in the car all day. And for parents, they've been listening to the nonstop banter of their kids and trying to keep them entertained. And for kids, they're cramped and bored, and they've been sitting still all day. And long since the appeal of Uno or I Spy out the window or those kind of things have long failed. So everybody's tensions are pushed, and when things start to go wrong, all bets are off, right? That's when you see parents start to act a little bit more like real humans than they do typically in front of their kids. They, as parents, I think you get pretty good at, you adopt the parental persona for your children, and that's it's good and bad, but you don't need to share every conversation with your spouse in front of your kids. Well, some of those things come to light when the car's broken down, it's getting dark, or it's raining, and you last saw a town an hour ago, and what did you just get us into? It's always Dad's fault for doing that kind of stuff. At least in my world it was, and Dad, you can tell Dad's frustrated because it's not something he can directly control. He would like to. He's, you know, that kind of guy, but in the lack of any other real recourse, he's got to just show the confidence to the rest of the family. Oh, this is fine, no problem. We got this, and not knowing how it's really all going to come out, he's just got to kind of manage it. So it's those experiences, not only from seeing the country, which is what I was initially talking about, but getting to know your family in a unfiltered, unguarded sense that really, it to little kids, it can seem tense. Like, oh my gosh, it's like another road. Oh, we didn't even get the. I was prepared to drink milk because we had just gotten the effect before we kept wandering, but no need. Anyway, it's a cool chance to see those unfiltered emotions come out when things are bad, and when they are, and you're on your way. AAA was really the one. I don't know. I saw it in movies a lot. I think maybe Diners Club was a similar type deal with the restaurants. That wasn't one my parents particularly used, so I didn't have a lot of firsthand knowledge of it. But certainly AAA. When you were out on the road, they sold the services that they got for their customers by doing their own form of advertising, and the savvy hotels and restaurants and those kind of things in various places understood that in exchange for a bartered fee on the services, right? They can't gouge AAA the way that they can perhaps a tow truck driver. It kind of has you at your mercy. If you're broken down on the middle of the road and he knows the only other tow truck operator in the county is his brother-in-law, there's not much you can do if he says, yeah, it's going to be $400 for the tow, and oh, by the way, I'll get to you tomorrow. I've got, something else going on. Oh, did you want to try to call somebody else? Well, I can already tell you that, the competition is sitting right across from me, and we're at dinner right now, and neither of us is moving. You can get pulled into those kinds of games when you're unknown in what may be, a beautiful area and normally very polite society, but you're a stranger in a strange land, as the book title goes, and you do, that has a thrill, certainly because thrilling things can happen as a result. So AAA was there, and they would offer these fixed prices. You knew you weren't going to get ripped off when you had AAA, a AAA service being provided. But in addition to that, AAA wanted you to get out and travel. They wanted their their revenue source, which was the businesses, in addition to the customers. Okay, let's back up. I was slaughtering that. So they got a business, right? Their business is to sell the little card to the customers, and they know, for whatever you pay per month, they, like insurance, they can do better by not having to pay as much out in the services. Well, to one, attract the deals with those service providers, and two, to sell more cards, they wanted a big network of people and places and things that were all covered under their card. And the way that they achieved that was to create first maps, which would then get you out of your door, driving around, which would further your need to keep the service, because by the time you've once broken down out in the middle of nowhere and found out how good it is to have a an easy access to a tow, or whatever. No fuss, no muss. The family vacation goes on, and mom and dad aren't at each other's throats as they try to find a hotel for unexpectedly for the night. What they, by the time you've once had that become kind of that actually worked out pretty well, it would be no big deal. And the other piece that they either luckily or knowingly fell into in the business model was they said, we know you're about to go on a road trip. You wouldn't be buying our card if not. Where you headed? We have maps for free in our office. Why don't you come on down and we'll make sure that you have all the maps that you need for your trip. And it was awesome. This goes all the way. They may still do it. I don't know, but it went on all the way up until maybe 10 years ago was maybe the last time I, as an adult, went in to get any. But they would they had very detailed U.S. maps, not like the book atlases of cities and inside internal individual states that would show every tiny little county road, but they would show all, you might get two states in one, but they'd show all the major interstates, state highways, a major county road type stuff, and all the cities had a dot, right? You weren't going to see the inside of the city, but if you're going across Texas, you you can kind of figure out whether you're closer to Dallas or Houston, and if you can see a road sign or a junction, you can place yourself on that map with relatively little skill. And AAA would set you up with those beforehand if you were going on a road trip. And I'm guessing they started with those, and shortly, speculation, I don't know this really, but I would imagine that following on this, what I would think would have been success of that idea, they started offering tour books. And the tour books were again by state or, multi-state region. And that's, kind of by size and complexity. I'm guessing California had its own state book, but, maybe if it was the Dakotas, they just, combined those in two. They're lower population density. There's not as many hotels, restaurants, businesses, all that kind of stuff. So, they did it in a way that made sense and worked out pretty well. This town has a ton of the little churches, and seeing as how the churches aren't real worth it, man, kind of feeling bummed. I can't even tell where we've been and where we haven't. It's just all churches and little houses. So these books, they had these books, and even younger viewers may have come across signs in hotels and things like that say AAA rated on a hotel desk or a restaurant door or something like that. Well, those at the time of my childhood may have been about, they probably passed their peak by then even, but we're kind of at that peak of, you could basically go any city in the United States, and under, whether it's a restaurant or a hotel, the AAA books would have a listing for it. And they would, they had like photos or any of those kind of things. They had probably the secret travel people to go in and review them and, kind of give an impression. And they would rate them on price and quality and all that, so that you could get a feel, am I staying at a hotel where they change the sheets on the beds twice a year, whether they need to or not? Or am I staying at a place that may cost me, back then, $100 a night, but will meet any need that I could possibly have and be the most luxurious place I've ever been? And it certainly helped if you're in unfamiliar places where to go. Well, So that alone made those pretty cool. But then beyond it, they had little write-ups of the areas, and particularly in the road trip I described, going south down to Georgia and Florida, and across a number of cities and states in America. These books would offer insight to what we were experiencing as we went along, and made that particular road trip, which I think I know I was younger than the one that we eventually took to Europe, that I really remember going into sixth grade. So, it late grade school type age. I could certainly read myself at that point. I wasn't just a little kid, but wasn't was in that boyhood age kind of thing. I remember some of the highlights for me. We went to Lincoln's birthplace. I think we went through Springfield. Those were things that we were aware of from school. We went to Churchill Downs. We went to the Indy 500 track in Indianapolis. And so it was things. And my mom had been a teacher full time before we were born, and later in our lives, when we were kind of in high school, and she was looking to, she'd, primarily been a homemaker when we were young, and I think that is so awesome for the remaining few mothers who continue to do that to this day. I cherish the fact that I had a parent who supplemented the education that we got through school. And having been a teacher, she was certainly well equipped to do that. But also that was just around enough to give us more opportunities than just come home and sit and stare at the TV when you get home. And of course, as a kid, I was way happier to go over and play at friends' houses, where that's exactly what we would do. The early video games and things like that. I was like, oh yeah, man, that's so cool. I'm glad we get to do that. But looking back, while those were fun and you can't discredit them, when I talk about getting up, between episodes, go outside, take a look, take a walk, do something like that, I really learned that, and it's something that I, to this day, appreciate as an adult, that you don't just do something at the expense of seeing more of the world that you're a part of, or taking on new opportunities, going to discover something new. Even as an adult, there's, in your own backyard, I guarantee there are things you don't know exist, whether they're a little park somewhere, or a tourist attraction, maybe not maybe not a tourist attraction, but maybe some little tucked away museum that's something historical in your hometown that you didn't know existed, and that just is kind of there for people to use and enjoy, run by caring volunteers or staff or whatever. And if you don't go out in search of it, you'll never know it exists. So I am a big advocate of balance in life activities and pursuits, and not being so caught up in any one thing that you lose any other. So when I say, yeah, we want big farms in this world, I want them, but I don't want to do them at the expense of taking this long wandering trek where we really haven't seen too much of terrible interest. We've gotten some. Let's review. We've gotten some spruce saplings, and we'll take those back. That saved us having to chop down any trees in the taiga. We got a gold block. That was the only thing of note at the broken portal. We got berries, which we may have already had a couple. I don't think so, though, because we'd never been in the taiga. We definitely boosted our potato stock in that village. And we got a couple pumpkin pies, which we haven't had yet. And that'll save us having to craft them. So, in terms of answering our food needs, success so far. In terms of discovering any real wow stuff, not quite. But we've certainly found a large new continent. We haven't particularly been concerned with which way we're going with it. But, a nice little ravine there. I'm not going to bother to stop for iron ore since we're doing very well in that department. This warrants a little caution. Anytime you see a broken hillside, there's plenty of little single hole drops that you don't fall into. Oh, like that. If you do find yourself falling, in that kind of a circumstance, if you can see an exit, get out. Look next. There certainly could be mobs coming up after you, but if you can see a way to get clear, because if you linger to fight the first mob that you see, you are somewhat subject to getting swarmed by a whole bunch more of them. We had oh, look at that, another little village. Maybe this will be the one. We'd passed a bunch of sunflowers back closer to home, but I think I'll take a few. That may mean that we're in the sunflower plains, so that's a different biome. Going back to the advancements, I think sunflower biome counts. Not certain, but we'll grab a few of these pumpkins either way, and a few of the sunflowers. There's lots that we currently have we can trade out if this village should prove to... Hey there. Hi. Oh, can I come in? You're a saw guy. That's... Not that we're going to do a lot of trading, but so he's a mason, and that must be a stone cutting block. So he would buy clay or sell us bricks. Or maybe just, introduce to a few of the other professions that we haven't really talked about, just to get us back into the game a little bit more, and knowing that we certainly have a firm grasp of farmers and librarians, but cartographers, the clerics, we've seen one, but even just at random, we may encounter one or two individuals that have an intriguing trade or something like that, and we could play around with. But we don't even see any chests. Just beds and single houses. Did we go into this one? I think we did. I haven't really talked about the bells too much yet because we haven't gotten to raids. Bells, the villagers will congregate a couple times a day anyway, just to do what the game calls gossip, where that's kind of where they relay their attitude to you. If you've traded with them, it's a positive. I think even if you've interacted with them, it may be a slight positive. If you've accidentally punched one of them, it's a negative, and their reputation will go down. And I don't know. I think at least allegedly they also may monitor some forms of theft, or if you take their job block, that may get a negative response. I don't know on all of that kind of stuff, but when they gossip, they kind of trade notes on what their attitude is, and we'll spread that a little bit, and that's how you can get the sales. And when they occasionally will drop prices or become less well stocked, they may raise prices. So I love that they even bothered to add a little bit more of that. Oh, look at you, pumpkin and beet guy. Someday, but I don't think we'll be back to you guys specifically. I think you're a little far away. Oh, I like those horses, though. They're pretty. Kind of the white socks and kind of that creamy brown. It's not the real reddish, and it's not the real dark. Nice to meet you, horsies. Maybe. We'll see. Probably we'll get horses closer to home. But, now that we know that there's a big continent right in our backyard, and I would certainly more happily have this kind of a configuration where we have access to seemingly endless land, but across a short body of water and have direct access to the water. Best of both worlds in my mind, and not to be overlooked with that mobility of the water. It's just too good to pass up for me when selecting where to build a home. So, but this has been very cool. All right, so I don't know that this is where we where we started from, but it's a little closer. We had seen some sunflowers. There was a birchy island. How random would it be if we just popped back over here? I did lose a boat, so I don't remember where exactly that had been. But we'll take back to the water. This has been a good leg stretching walk, a good chance to talk about some of my own road trip memories and the AAA service, which again I would be hypocritical if I said, "Oh yeah, go get it." I haven't kept my AAA current in a long time, and in part because I haven't done as much long distance driving in a while through work requirements, and when I go, like off-roading and stuff like that, I don't know that AAA really comes. The other piece of that is that all of us are increasingly well served by the internet. We don't need a service to tell us which hotels are good because we have. Sorry guys, I'm a little turned around. which way did we come from? So we would come from the north. So those are the mountains that were on the side. That's where we came out of. And I guess we don't want to go too far that way. Is that us home again? I know it's close, but it couldn't be that close, right? We're still 1,000 blocks away. But this is of another village on the coast, and that's pretty cool if this is all the same body of water. If we just head off, once again I'm pointing, if we head off in that direction, I think we'll maybe eventually get closer to home, and this would certainly be somewhere we could load a couple villagers onto a boat and get them into the water. And who knows, maybe they'll just have something exciting for us. I doubt it, but it's worth checking. They may have more of some of the things we consider exciting. That in and of itself is pretty good. Let's find a spot to plop down our bed. We don't want very close to having stars out. As I've said before, I don't need the details screen up, but I worry about villagers pulling us off in opposite directions. So, just a reminder, I think we parked our boat down here. We don't want to lose that. These look like just little, forgive my saying, dumb houses. Dumb in that they don't have profession or boxes or anything else. They're just a bed inside of a couple walls. This one, on the other hand, alright, more potatoes. Really happy about those. Enough bread that between that and the pies, I think we're well set to have our farms up and going. Hey, you guys are doing pretty good out here. We can maybe grab up the rest of that hay, get a full, as close to a full stack as we can. Excuse me, I want to see, why are you keeping hay by your bed? That's a little odd. I mean, it stays dry that way. Maybe it was rainy and you guys didn't want it to get wet. Does that mean that outdoor hay is just public hay? Yeah, we only got 10. Now again, we don't even have draft animals back at home yet, but since we've got a few hay bales already, we may as well fill those out. So that was hay bale house. Let's come over here. This is another of the mason stone cutter buildings. I like the flowers and the big trees up on the porch. Maybe we can get to this from... We may have to go back and get our boat and come back around. Look, they got a little dock out into the water. This is just a different little island. This is cool. This is a herdsman of some kind. He's got cows and pigs. Let's not let them out. The pigs are taking baths. Good piggies. Oh, that's nice. Alright. So, this is very large, really, when you get down to it. It's spread out around. Lots to offer in terms of hay. But they, again, they're kind of an isolated island community. They apparently grow grass very well. Cut it and dry it. And then they leave it outdoors for anyone to just come pick up. That's what my culture views that as. They may have different views of property rights, but to each our own. And until they can articulate to me that I'm doing something that's not welcome by their community, I'm just going to keep on doing it. Man, a little blooming flower bed out here. The bees love it. So cool. You villagers are by far my favorite villagers so far in this world. I think you got a cool little home. And I will make it every effort to return with a boat and use a part of your population eventually to invigorate a thriving community. Unless I find somewhere that's just ridiculously close and inconvenient, and I have to use that. Let's just go ahead and note this one. I've just got my notepad out, and if you'll bear with me just a moment, we're just going to jot down we'll call this Haymarket. Let's say, I believe it's a London neighborhood now, but used to be what would have been a community on the outskirts of London that got absorbed. So that's what we'll call this town, and I've jotted down its coordinates so we can get back to it when we so desire. All right, now I keep hitting escape. I'm like, why can't I get rid of that text? And the reason I said market, obviously they've got a lot of hay, and they'll have the little bit inside some of those homes. These are all, just single residences, nothing too fancy. This may have been the one that we first came into, and I think maybe there's one or two structures back over here. Just so cool. Love your guys' little town. This is awesome. Library, for me, that's kind of a must in a town. Like AAA that we've certainly talked about a lot in this one. I haven't used libraries in a long time. I have a great one in the next town over, which is where I actually lived for quite a while. So that would still be the library that I use most regularly. And, if and when I did, and I certainly have used it. I think like so many others, I have a Kindle. I have way too many of my own books, and I do find I like to return to old favorites as much as I like a new book, and certainly go out of my way to seek those out too. But I will return to some old favorites more readily than I would just drop into the library and say, hey, I need something new and different to read. But I, you know, if it was still thriving, I could easily see librarian as a wonderful, you know, I think so many people of a certain personality miss the kind of increasing lack of bookshops to go into and sell. And I don't know if you guys have been into one at any point recently. But, the Barnes and Nobles, to me, I still love going in and just browsing through book titles, and I've done it once, I think, in a couple years now, back around. And in fact, it was around the holidays this last year, when I was going to ship some Christmas presents away, and somebody had asked for a particular book, and I think I couldn't get it online with gift wrap or whatever. So all right, well, I'll go get it and wrap it up and mail it, and that certainly was a good solution, and it ended up being. Bear with us as we try to get home. Our great adventures in getting lost. So we had made a big loop, and I knew on foot. As our spawn is, I think it's somewhere between 20 and 50 or 50 and 70 on both of them. It's double digits in the positive on both sides, I think. So we basically want to be going towards zero. So it looks like as we swung back to come south, we'd gotten clear, and that means that we know there's a bit of desert out beyond our home, but somehow we came far enough around it, either on foot or in our boat, that we completely missed our little section. So will we? Oh, there's a temple though. I wonder if that's one of our landmarks. I think since we're still at like 800, excuse the hiccups, we're too far. Oh, now it's getting dark. Okay, there's some land. Whatever you are, land, we're coming. Yeah, I don't know how we kind of missed home as much as we did. We definitely made a big loop so that we got south of our actual home in our wanderings. But now we can kind of race the sunset. Now we've gone too far back again. But when it looked like it was getting dark, I wanted to have some land in sight so I could duck in and sleep. It's with drowning a harpoon, it's very possible to lose all when you've just got iron in open ocean. So we'll try to avoid that. Now, is this the desert that we maybe want to loop around? I think it probably is. So this is actually a peninsula. Okay, now I think we can get rid of that. So I think when we look out into our little courtyard from the room in our house that has all the chests, if we look, we're looking straight east then, and we look out over and into a desert, and I think that is this, and it appears to be just a little peninsula. And maybe we probably knew that, but I just forgot. And then our big desert that goes back over to the southeast, or southwest, sorry. That's the one with the village in it, and had a desert temple when we kept walking. So we'll continue to explore, but we know out of sight, beyond that horizon, all that land wraps back around and isn't too much further off the end of that deserty point than it would be when we just went straight out from the edge. So every adventure teaches us a little bit more about. Oh man, I saw that sunset and I thought my trees were on fire. I was like, oh no. Just beautiful, nothing to worry about. We made it. Aren't we all happy? And I can't but feel that one wasn't quite as productive as the last trip, but that's not to say it wasn't valuable. It was carrots that we had a lot of, but look at how many potatoes we have now. So we are clearly set to rock. We can almost lay down a full wheat field when we get ready. We can certainly get, share a field for the first plantings or, two with potatoes and carrots and get them ready to go by the time we have another field ready. We got loads of pumpkins. We've got a couple beets, and between the wheat and the two other crops, we'll be farming in no time. And we hadn't had seeds, so we got that. We've got pumpkin pies to snack on in addition to our fish and our bread. And I think we'll just hang on to that, eat up this last of these cooked cods. We'll definitely want to. I don't know why those are separate. We'll definitely want to hold on to fresh fish going forward, but hopefully we'll be at a point where we don't really need to worry about the cooked stuff that we find in ship chests or anything like that. We can just let those go. I don't remember exactly where we got the mossy brick slab, but that's cool. We'll hang on to it. Let's dump our logs, and our spruce saplings are going to be great someday. We didn't need more wood. Why? You go away. Gold block. You get a place of honor. And iron. So, we're also we could certainly switch some of these at this point and, know that we can change them back to nuggets if we wanted to build a bunch of lanterns or something. So we could do that, but we've already got a bunch of iron bars. And aside for the loss of one boat that I just full on didn't carry with me on the walk, never really expecting it to go quite that far. We did. We returned life and limb intact, and our pockets are better now than when we left them. When we wake up, we'll check the stone in the oven. See, I think we've still got to wait to go here. No, we don't. We're in spawn, are we? I don't think we ever journeyed anywhere after our spawn. We just popped here, which is fantastic, right? That means that we can go adventuring when these things cook and not suffer for it. So now back to our job at hand. While we're doing that, we want stone bricks. Boom. And we want to use those first and foremost here. Then boom, boom, boom. And here. Now we'll need one more at the far end. Well, that should be readily obvious. Oh my gosh. Okay. I said before, perfection when you're placing those is great, but I don't mind picking up a few extras along the way as long as I'm not leaving big holes. you go get replaced with that. We drop a bucket of water. We go down to the river. May have been a closer water source, I'm not sure, but now we'll have one. So Jack and Jill went back up the hill after fetching a pail of water. Here we are. Boom. Boom. Now, once we have all this water set, we're going to want to do two things. We'll go back inside and get the hoe I probably should have brought the first time around. And we'll also check, no matter how many stone have cooked, we'll want to grab them because we can finalize the other water channels and should have enough then to do the next one over's elevated section. And with that amount of working time, we'll have plenty of time to maybe plant the wheat, lay some torches, and get the last row of stone brick placed before we switch out to replacing these paths and all that. So this can all go pretty quickly if it has a chance. We'll take the 20. It's a nice multiple. Okay, now we got enough to keep going. We want probably one more of those. Take all of these to start, and the hoe I made, and the next one I'm gonna make two more, total of 3. Boom. Excuse me, getting a little hiccupy thing. Let's do stop. Just 10 minutes past the top of the hour. I'm gonna meet you guys for just the top of the hour. We're at an hour and 12 minutes of recording time, is what I meant to say. Let me get you muted here for just a second so I can clear out some of this allergy gunk. One sec. Okay, I think I'm back. I think the fluids building in my head have backed off a little bit. We'll see. Wow. Something is viscous up there. And again, as I've kind of relayed here, there's been more concentrated Minecraft time in the last few days. And certainly last weekend, because the weather's frankly been the wintry style of spring, not the almost summery version of spring. It's either been bright and sunny but cold recently, or gray and damp and cool and overcast. Nothing particularly warm the last few days. And we knew this was coming. It's not a big deal. We've had a couple both day and night little snows, and I think we're supposed to get one more shot of that maybe this afternoon or evening. And I don't think this one has quite the accumulation, but when I was out earlier today, it certainly had the look of, that kind of day when it's just going to threaten and threaten and threaten and eventually unleash. So, that's we need the moisture. That's the favorite saying around here. I'm sure many places, kind of have that as a response to rainy, unpleasant weather. Oh, we need the moisture, and it's a way of being positive about things. So I respect that. I like it, but ooh, I'm gonna need to grow back out there. Anyway, I have been saying that, in the midst of all this, and while to me this year spring feels behind, it's one of the things at moments I always wish I did a better job. In the past, I think, people used to call themselves citizen or amateur scientist type things. They were the people that enjoyed, maybe not as a career, but they were fascinated by the world around them and wanted to study it, and they saw, depending on the era, books or newspaper articles or magazines or newsreels or film strips or TV programs about nature and the world and all that. And one of the things that, predated back to ship captains and explorers and military personnel responsible for particular sites or locations was this: you would keep a log not only of your activities, how many men you lost that day, or how much food you went through, or how many miles you made it if you were on the march, but or on a ship or anything else, but also what the weather was that you experienced along the way. And early on at military, and then now we're all pretty familiar with the idea that there's weather stations at airports, and they certainly picked up that mantle. Oh no! Did I? No! I did this again, maybe? Oh man, what's off? Come on. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Should be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2. What on earth? I mean, these can't. We measured all of these out, right? We were using full sets of blocks to fill them in. How can they be off? I don't understand. Man, I hate when these don't line up. And it always seems too likely. Okay, we don't have enough there yet. But boy, are we going to try to find them. It would have been cool if we had just a few more pieces of gravel. Because, and I say that if you're, if you've got to place something and fill it back in, and I guess we could have used that in the water fill at the bottom of our staircase when we were dealing with that little challenge. Just so frustrating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 1, 2. We'll go back and go to bed now. We'll just go to bed right here. Man, oh man. I mean, in one sense, without having done all the extra work, it might be easier to just find that we counted short on the original and now are needing to correct with, oh, did I just goof that up? No, I don't trust anything I'm doing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 7. 1, 2, 3, 8. We're just off on the whole darn thing. Dag nabbit. Alright. You come out. Anytime we want to get out of the way of the stupid pig. I feel like I'm being way too dismissive about that walking sound. Clearly these guys are underneath me, but when you get comfortable with that, oh yeah, they're just below me, I always worry that something else may be creeping up and just masking the sound of their footsteps. I mean, there were so many ways that could have been caught because we were... That's not right. That's right. Now, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3. All is right. Silly, silly, silly. Alright, well, you know, we were going to have to break all those anyway. And now when we do it, we'll just have the stone bricks already in place on this end. I don't even care about you, because we are going to go a little further out anyway. So, all silliness now dealt with. 2, 3. Let's get these two out of the way. Swapped with dirt. Guess it doesn't really matter. We can just get all these done. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Would help if we could just depend on those. So now our irrigation channels at least should be right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're set here. Now, of course, we were on the brink of being right on our counts of bricks. Man, we're going to have to deal with all this nonsense below us. And, you know, I guess it helped answer the question, but why on earth did I put the stupid torches down if I was going to have to break those blocks anyway? And why did I use cobble on the sides of these when I was going to use bricks? Okay. It's not, you know, not the end of the world. I do feel bad. I apologize. I know this isn't the most exciting of content in the best of circumstances, and then to prolong it with a accounting error is kind of painful. I'm sorry for that. So please accept my deepest apologies. The good news is we should have cooked up more stone. we'll put in that next batch. And while that won't get the whole project done, it should, we know it will let us finish this overhead, and we can at least cap off the irrigation ditches here on the other side. We can fill this ditch and can begin to start on our potato carrot farm while this one's growing. I don't want to, I really shouldn't have, and I don't want to do additional torch placement work until we do have more bricks, because eventually we'll want to switch all this out. Well, this is a nice little starting point. We can knock down this cobble, and while that's cooking, at least we can, let's till this soil. We'll run back in to get the, that's something we can do. You know what else we can do? See you guys. I don't know who you are or what you think you're doing, but wherever you may lie, we're coming. Yep. For you. Sure are loud enough. There we go. Hello, boys. Lights on. What you doing down here? Now, we don't want to waste our precious bricks. No, not that. Come on. Call your buddies over while they're down here. Yeah, I appreciate the commentary on my miscounted fields, but that's not the kind of help we need. We want positive reinforcement, not just a whole bunch of trashing. So, wow. Further, I didn't realize that this was such a established cave. I think we'd maybe peeked in this one and just not been equipped to come deal with it. So, oops. Yet another reason to just get after getting stuff done when you can. I am at a still, after all the creepers and all this stuff, I don't know why sometimes when you're backing up off a thing like that and you just go that's when they decide not to stop their sizzle. And now this is a whole different cavern, and I think it's awesome to have all this, but I don't want to listen to zombies every time I go to do my farms. That's awful. And it's these up top right below the soil type ones that I want to get lit up as quickly as possible here. Not that the deeper ones aren't intriguing, but I didn't expect we would have quite this much to deal with yet again. I mean, dude, is there any ground? Like, how is all this dirt standing up on top of all this stuff? It's amazing. I'm looking taking the time to look just a little bit more to see if I see any mine shafts peeking out. I don't. You there, bud? Oh, did you get a bone? It looks kind of like a monkey wrench. Oh, a bone. Oh, there's another carrot. Lots of footsteps. I am genuinely impressed with the amount of underground space that we have right around us here. This is amazing. And that may be a little bit... Hey! Where'd you guys come from? Huh? Seriously. Maybe up there? Really? I kinda didn't expect anything to be coming from behind. But what I was saying is, genuinely pleasantly surprised at how much there is. And I'm wondering if, maybe in your guys' experience, feel free to let me know in the comments, is it living close or at spawn that makes this more likely? Has the game become such that, if you just start right at spawn, you will naturally get a larger amount of features than, when I typically go wandering in search of a home. Oh, get some rain up above. That can take me a long way away from the spawn, and if I do that, then am I losing on a known deal that only at spawn will they really crank a bunch of cave systems? Because this is, not the biggest. I've seen this type of development of features before, but I don't know that I've enjoyed having one kind of in and right around me so much as this in the past. Alright, well, we've got the evening, and this is a nice break from the farm work. We know we're cooking stone. It would be nice to get that finished, and maybe, depending on how turned around we get down here, we will pop up on our stairway cave or the glass-covered cave that's a little closer to home. This might be a beach with all that sand. It likely wouldn't be a desert because it has rain sounds. So we can certainly look at F3. That would tell us what biome that particular block represented, but we're doing all right. And that's kind of one of the nice advantages of being in a big cave system around your home is you can just kind of explore a little more free-heartedly. I don't know that that's exactly a word or grammar, but it works in the sense that that's what I'm trying to do. I need torches, and I need my shield. That's what I was trying to get. In a lot of exploration, you're rightly trying to focus on, there you go, on revealing the map and finding those resources. And when you're underground like this, that becomes a little more difficult when you find you just run through caves placing several stacks of torches. And while even if I'd largely keep my torches on this side as I go, but I will quickly erase that just by filling in the dark spots. But I try to note features. That's certainly something of note. It looks like an Enderman has been here and dropped off a block, and would be something we can look back to. That I think this is kind of the area we'd just been under. And not much to worry about getting lost there. So if you have a little patience, you can wind your way back out of most things. But sometimes the time involved isn't worth it, and it's easier to just cautiously go up and pop out of the ground and see where you've gotten to. And sometimes you find, wow, man, I haven't gone anywhere. Other times you're like, man, you didn't necessarily go in a straight line, but you got a long ways from where you'd started. So I have often gotten and then worked to unlose myself in caves and mines and all that kind of stuff in Minecraft. But for a long time in my play, I definitely put a premium on carefully mapping with torches, knowing what way I could go. And for a long time, I think as an underutilized resource, I used the redstone dust that you get and don't have a whole lot of use for until later in the game. I would use that to mark my way towards a spawn or something underground if it was deep in a cave system, or if I'd reached it first through my diamond mine tunnels and had to go a long way just to get to it, and knew I was going to come back. I had to go back to base, because as soon as you find anything cool like that, it's a given that you'll be out of torches or your last pick is about to break. And so you never get to just savor the exploration in the moment. Yeah, you have to go back and resupply. And to avoid losing those, I'd use redstone and just kind of, breadcrumb the trail. You can make air, the first one you place down will make a dot, and this is designed to flow current over, but the next one will make a little line. Well, you can make an arrow in the ground pretty readily with redstone. See? And I certainly have made use of that over my time playing this game. But as I've kind of, you do a bunch of time in caves and kind of get used to it and understand that there's more out there in the game. That minutia in caves, I think I've grown less tolerant of. I just kind of am more eager to move quickly, see what there is, light things up quickly, mine my way back, clearing the resources, and knowing that only when everything's gone are you really most vulnerable to getting lost, because that's when the landmarks, you can tell if a particular passageway has no iron and no coal anymore. Well, you've already cleared it out. So not only have you been down it, the torches tell you that, but you've been back out of it. So you can kind of tell the problem, and it's the same in abandoned mine shafts, becomes when you have removed all that stuff and they all start to just look like empty cave hallways with torches all over them. And There are times when you can definitely get turned around and just throw up your hands and go, I don't remember how I got in here or what the quickest way out is. Um, get me out of here. Ooh, little pause. Maybe we're getting up towards the end of our our episode here. Um, we're definitely close. I hope we recover. The only other time we've really seen this was at the first episode when we went long, and yeah, I mean we're only an hour and 40. I restarted the game. I do have. Bear with me just a second. I'm just gonna check. I have the earlier session from today. The video that you just watched prior to this, most likely, is currently loading up to YouTube. That's the only other thing active on my system. So a little surprising there, but we're hopefully we won't see too many more of those. I'd like to, naturally wrap up our trip here into the cave, get back up when dawn comes, go back home, and continue on with our planting. That was our landmark. I think we passed it going this way. See, that's the other problem. You go, oh yeah, remember that grassy dirt block? That's something different. Remember that. And then you go, why was I remembering that? Yeah, what is going on? Oh, maybe we're going to be an hour and 45-minute episode. Not that there's, I understand these are already on the longer end of most people's preference. This looks a little more daylighty. Now it's going to be exciting daylighty because we have rain, and so everything that spawned overnight is potentially still there. On the best course there. Okay, so we're down at the river. So we were just above. Oh, no. we were. How did I climb the wrong side? We entered, right up there and popped out down there, so not too bad. Anything coming to kill me from this side? It's nicer over here. Why don't we do this? We'll just, while it's a rainy day, just loop around, pick up the desert. Hey guys. And yeah, reemerge with a little less walking in the rain. Using the biomes to our advantage. There we go. Well, into every life a little rain must fall. Alright, let's see if we can make it back home through that. Good. So, with a couple pauses there in gameplay, I think we're going to slowly and chill whip up the rest of that stack of stone just so we get a little surplus here. And we'll just, pick away at our inventory nice and easy. We want to do the fields, but it's rainy. We're gonna reset anyway, and I don't think there's a ton of need to rush this. While the game, is clearly working through some issues of resources, that kind of stuff. It may well have been in part, our journey on this one, which makes me a little more concerned for flying and some of that kind of stuff with the recording running when we get there. But World 2 we didn't have too many issues at all, so we'll see. It could have been the rain just starting up caused a little bit more resource utilization. Don't know, but between these two, we'll be ready for a whole new field of goodies. Let's reload what torches we have. We can go take a look and see if our buddies cleared away. Now, I know we'd had a few more of these seeds. Let's get them in while we can. Cow, you on lookout for skeletons? There were a few around. Yeah, there's one of the holes. And eventually, we'll have our fences and things up. But hopefully by having gone down over that night at the end of the episode, we got the bulk of the noisemakers knocked down and out, so we don't have to listen to all that while we're farming. That's a big part of that motivation, is just, hey man, let's not have quite so much noise. And I just had to hit a button on my phone there. Well timed, knowing that we're coming up to the end of this episode, but these little bits help. If we can do this at the end, we got in some caving and this will go down as in an early game as one of those more adventurous episodes, because we took that long walk and while we didn't find too terribly much, we explored some new land, saw some new biomes for this world. Decided that maybe for our next adventure we'll follow the coast and see how big a landmass we're actually living on. Rain is done. Good. Now let's do. Maybe I'm being silly. Let's come down here and just do them in 2 rows each, and not have one field further away from where we're. No, not gonna deal with that. Then these. Cool. Now we got water. Hey, we're just going to let that stone cook. That'll be the end of this episode after we flip our inventory. Now here I am doing thing after thing. I reserve you guys the right that if we have another one of those awkward pauses where I'm talking and the game's not moving and I know it and you know it, laugh the whole time at me. This may have been pushing it, but I don't think it's fatal. Worst thing is we get one more little hang and deal with it, but I hope not. I kind of hope that when those types of things happen, it's just laptop background processes that are going, not anything that I'm doing. Certainly, it's happened so irregularly that it doesn't seem to be a real impediment to playing the game, or as much as I said, oh yeah, well maybe it was going on the walk and loading new biomes and all that. I don't really think so. I think the laptop has shown it can handle the game. We've hung out around spawners and dealt with their output pretty successfully, and without there hasn't been a consistent lag on performance when we've done those kind of things, and some things that would, if it was purely the game itself, that would tend to slow it down. So I'm gonna write it off to let's call it laptop bloatware. Either the hardware based or the pre-installed version of Windows junk that comes along with it. Oh, this is a driver for our proprietary who knows what, if it's ergonomic software, whatever that they do to kind of optimize, and it's not a part of the operating system directly. I knew I was. Wait, this doesn't feel right anymore. I think I'm seeing. The question is, are we back to right? I think we are. Boom. 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 Done. Woohoo! Now I'm not going to bother with these. We've got more stone brick to lay. Then we can do more torches. We've got a full hoe though. One more check. Do the hoeing. Get the pumpkins in. What pumpkins we have. And we really will. We're at an hour and 50 minutes. And a couple of the ones yesterday got just up over 2 hours. I don't have a specific limit, but I do think around 2 is, it's probably, some of you guys would probably prefer them to be much shorter or have summary versions. Well, again, I don't yet have a real good grasp on the video editing stuff. As you guys see from the ugly slides and some of that kind of stuff, the processing and all that, not exactly my cup of tea yet, but I hope to get there. And while I'm, getting my bearings in all this stuff, I hope that, just having the play along episodes is something. And I think, those ultimately may go up a little bit, particularly if they become stream VODs. I don't think that just streaming for an hour or two is real likely, particularly, if you're not breaking them up. I've seen streamers handle that in a number of different ways. Some who like to stream for very extended periods of time, the 8-10 hour sessions of streaming, every so often, and then they'll break those into individual video segments for YouTube. Those guys will often, in the midst of their stream, say, okay, stream audience, hang in there with me for a moment. We're going to switch our VOD or our video sessions, and then they'll do a new they'll pause the chat or whatever and do a little outro and a little intro for the next episode, and then they'll continue on their play, and they'll break it up within the session. Others will just break up a stream into individual little chunks, and without much fanfare or ado, you'll just roll through the videos. Nothing wrong with that either. It's lower overhead, and for the stream audience, certainly is less disruptive. You just, you don't even have to be aware that as you're watching, that content is going to be broken into stream. I personally would love to be in the scenario where you're making the entire VOD available, but you're also doing some form of a summary. And I mentioned John Bams from Twitch a number of times. He's someone I enjoy, a little more hype and kind of caught up in the stream audience, a little more FM morning drive DJ joke caliber than maybe would be my exact style, but not that there's anything wrong with that. I think Twitch is certainly a place for that, but you don't have to celebrate it. But I didn't mean to offer any judgment on him. I think he does an incredible job and creates a a very watchable show, whether you're there for the Minecraft or just for the chat experience or for the butt jokes and stuff like that. You know, whatever your takeaway is, he's a good entertainer and has a lot to teach about playing Minecraft too as he goes. And not that he's trying to be a tutorial any more than anybody else. His videos show it all, and you know what he knows to build. You can watch him go from conception to completion right there, and that's a pretty cool thing. Just trying to get a torch. So here we go. Now you'd think that these blocks would make it easier, and really it's counting the dashes, but I still often find that it's no better. Let's see, 2, 3, nope, there, right? Still good. 1, 2, 3, dash, 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 dash. Oh, dash, 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 dash. Seems good. So now 8 is not enough to do anything further. Can we go further along this row with 8? This is quickly approaching wrap up time here. So if you want to jump ahead, I don't blame you. But we're gonna drop in these last 8 pieces of stone brick. We'll have the next batch cooked up and ready to go. I'm going to take just another little break, maybe a little bit of extra time since we've been going for a little while here. But when we come back, we've now made some real good progress, and I think I'm not going to guarantee. I may do the elevated lights and swap that out first when we first get back. I know we've done a lot of the farm already. I don't want to do over much. I'd like to just, let these grow, but I'd also like to, there's back into our cave. I'd kind of like to take a boat out around the island and see what all we have there. We gotta make some more torches. Gotta keep cooking this stone. And we gotta do trees too. Let's not completely forget trees. That's gonna be more dirt digging, which I am not looking forward to particularly. But we have been blessed with some bees and would like, well, not bees exactly, but a bee nest, and with the space to really start maximizing that. So even before we do animals, I think in this one we'll at least see if we can get a few trees to pop with bee nest, or at least set up an environment where we can reasonably hope that will happen going forward. So that's the kind of the plan for next time at this point. And as always, I want to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I really appreciate you watching. I hope to see you in the next one. And between now and then, if you'd like to add a like to the video in YouTube, or drop a comment and let me know what you've enjoyed, or any recommendations or things that you'd like to see done in this world. I would be happy to receive those and read them. So from me to you, until next time, have fun out there, and we'll see you. Bye.